Jaden's heart pounded as he stepped through the tall gates of the Varnic Empire's palace. He carried only a small satchel and a single uniform. The marble walls glowed under pale lights at dusk. Guards in shining armor watched him quietly. A soft breeze carried the scent of alien flowers. Jaden felt both excited and nervous. He had traveled for weeks across dusty plains and empty space lanes. Now he stood before the largest building he had ever seen. The palace rose like a silver mountain against the sky. Each tower seemed to touch the stars. Jaden drew a steady breath and reminded himself why he came. A new job with a high wage. He would be the caretaker for Princess Cerelia, the Varnic royal. No one told him much about the princess. Rumors drifted through spaceports and taverns. Some said she would heed no one. Others claimed she praised human strength. All agreed she was beautiful and fierce. Now Jaden would see for himself. A servant in crisp robes led him along a wide corridor. The stone floor was smooth and cool. Intricate murals told stories of past wars and great victories. Jaden tried to read the alien symbols, but they meant nothing to him. He followed the silent guide until they reached a heavy door of polished metal. "This way, please," the servant said in soft tones. Jaden bowed and entered. Inside was a small antechamber with plush seats and a low table. Another aide took his satchel. Jaden watched as his belongings were carried away. He felt naked without them. A voice spoke from a raised doorway. "You must be our new caretaker." A tall woman stood in the shadows. Her skin was pale blue with a hint of purple. Her eyes glowed faintly green. Even in half-light, Jaden saw her beauty. She wore a simple robe of deep crimson. Her long hair spilled over her shoulders like a dark waterfall. "I am Jaden, sir," he said, bowing again. He used the formal title he learned. The woman stepped forward. She moved with quiet power. Jaden felt a gentle wind swirl around them. She smiled once, but it did not reach her eyes. "We have strict rules here," she said. Her voice was calm but firm. "You will follow orders without question. You will schedule my meals, tend my wardrobe, and see that I lack nothing." Jaden nodded quickly. He swallowed hard. The princess paused. "And remember," she added, "human men are delicate. Do not place them near me." Jaden blinked. He thought she spoke of his own kind. He wondered what that meant. The princess turned and swept away without another word. Jaden was left alone. He ran his hand through his hair and tried to calm his mind. He had signed a contract. He had accepted the challenge. Now he must learn the truth about the woman he served. With steady steps, he followed the aide deeper into the palace, ready to begin his new life. Jaden woke before sunrise. The sky was a pale gray when he slipped from his small room. He dressed in the simple uniform of a palace caretaker. He followed a quiet corridor lit by soft lights. The air was cool and still. He felt a mix of pride and worry. This was the heart of the Varnic Empire. He reached a wide hall where other caretakers waited. They stood in neat lines beside tubs of strange fruit and baskets of fresh bread. Each person wore a badge with the princess's emblem. A senior caretaker spoke in a low voice, explaining the morning routine. Jaden listened closely. He learned that every meal, every bath, every change of clothes happened on a strict clock. A holographic board flickered at the end of the hall. It showed tiny icons moving along a timeline. Jaden peered at it. At 5:30, the princess rose. At 6 o'clock, she trained in the zero-gravity chamber. At 8 o'clock, she met her advisors. Then came lessons in language, history, and dance. At 12 o'clock, a light meal. Then more counsel. Finally, rest. No human man could enter her quarters outside these times. Jaden felt a chill. Human men were delicate, the princess had said. He had not yet met any other man who served her. He watched as two caretakers carried trays of warm water to a side door. Beyond that door lay the zero-gravity room. A guard held it closed. A small plaque warned, "No men beyond this point." He followed the senior caretaker into a viewing gallery. Through a crystal window, he saw Princess Cerelia moving with graceful power. She flipped and glided in the air like a dancer. Her crimson robe had been set aside in a neat pile. She wore a tight suit of light alloy that glowed with soft lines. Two female trainers hovered nearby, guiding her form. Jaden noticed how the princess's every move drew the attention of the trainers. No man was there. When the session ended, Cerelia bowed to her trainers. They bowed back. The guard opened the door, and she stepped out, pulling on a new robe. Jaden caught a glimpse of her smile, bright and sharp. She walked past without a word, and the door closed behind her. Next, Jaden joined the group for the council. He kept to the back of the long chamber. Alien advisors in robes of green and silver leaned over star maps and data crystals. Cerelia sat at a raised table. She spoke in calm, clear tones. Each advisor listened with respect. When she made a decision, they nodded and set new orders into motion. Jaden felt the weight of her power. He knew then that she expected nothing less than perfection. Afterward, Jaden returned to the caretaker hall. He was handed a tray of simple food, flatbread, fruit, and a warm drink. He prepared it quickly, palms shaking slightly. Today, he would learn to serve the princess herself. He wondered how he could please someone so strong and wary of his kind. As he carried the tray down the silent corridor, Jaden breathed deeply. He thought of his home world, of simple tasks and friendly faces. Here, every step mattered. Here, every moment could bring honor or disaster. He squared his shoulders and stepped forward. Part 2 of his journey had begun. Jaden's hand shook as he carried the tray toward Princess Cerelia's chamber. The corridor was silent. He paused before the heavy door and straightened his back. He knocked twice, as he had been taught. A soft voice called, "Enter." He pushed the door open and stepped inside. The room was large and sparse. Pale light spilled through tall windows. Cerelia sat on a low platform, her robes folded neatly beside her. She watched him with cool green eyes. Jaden felt his heart race. He held out the tray. On it lay a small dish of steamed vegetables, soft bread, and a cup of warm herbal tea. Jaden knelt a few steps away, bowing his head. "Your meal, princess," he said, voice steady despite his nerves. Cerelia raised an eyebrow. She waited. Jaden set the tray on a low table and rose. He stood perfectly still, hands at his sides. The princess reached forward and took a piece of bread. She tasted it slowly, her face unreadable. Finally, she spoke. "This bread is too dry." She paused, then added, "And these vegetables lack salt." Her tone was calm but sharp. Jaden winced. He had followed the chef's recipe exactly. He bowed deeply. "I am sorry, Your Highness. I will see to it right away." Cerelia's lips curved in a faint smile. It was the first sign of life in her expression. "Do that," she said softly. "Then return here. I will have my tea myself." She stood and swept past him, heading toward a window. Jaden hurried to obey. He bowed again and left the room. His mind raced. He had never felt such fear and wonder in the same moment. He found the senior cook and explained the problem. The cook nodded and adjusted the seasoning. Jaden tasted the soup. It was warm and rich. He thanked the cook and carried the tray back. Entering again, he placed the new dishes before Cerelia. She sat in profile by the window, pale hair catching the light. Jaden knelt as before. He waited. The princess reached out, took a spoon, and sipped the soup. This time, her eyes narrowed in approval. "Better," she said. She paused, then asked, "And what have you learned of me, caretaker?" Jaden swallowed. He had not expected a question. He thought for a moment. "I have learned that you know what you want, and that you expect the best." Cerelia turned to face him fully. She studied him in silence. Then she smiled, small and secret. Jaden felt relief wash over him. For the first time, he saw warmth beneath her cool mask. "Very well," The princess said, "You may remain. But remember, any man who fails me will find himself far from these walls." Her words were gentle, but they carried weight. Jaden bowed deeply. "I understand, Your Highness. I will not fail." He left the chamber with his heart pounding. He knew the princess's tests had only just begun, yet he felt a spark of pride. He had faced her challenge and earned a small measure of her trust. Part 3 of his journey would be even harder, but he was ready to learn more. Jaden moved quietly through the palace corridors, carrying fresh linens for the princess's chambers. He paused at a corner where 2 servants whispered. He did not mean to listen, but their words drifted through the still air. "They say any human man who pleases her too much vanishes," one servant murmured. "She tests them first," the other replied. "If they fail, she sends them away." Jaden's heart tightened. He had already seen her tests. Now he wondered what happened to those who failed. Later, Jaden found Mira, an older caretaker, arranging silken gowns in the dressing alcove. He gently placed the linens on a low table. Mira glanced at him kindly. "Princess Cerelia once had a human tutor," she said softly. "He was brilliant and bold, but she found his praise too much. He disappeared from her court." Jaden's palms cooled. He asked no more, but he remembered every warning. That afternoon, Jaden carried a tray of perfumed oils to the princess's private study. On a carved desk lay an old scroll. He recognized his own name written in delicate script, an invitation from Cerelia herself. He bowed deeply and stepped back. She stood behind him, tall and silent. "Read it," she said. His voice shook as he spoke. "Caretaker Jaden, demonstrate your loyalty by caring for my people as you care for me." Her test was clear. Serve her staff, not just her. Jaden nodded. He spent the next hour in the servants' quarters. He fetched water for the cooks, polished the guards' armor, and even carried a messenger's heavy bag. Each time, he greeted them with respect. When he returned to the princess, his uniform bore smudges and his hands were rough. Cerelia watched him closely. "You serve without complaint," she said. "Most men refuse such work." Jaden bowed his head. "I serve because it honors you, Your Highness." That evening, Mira showed him the gowns again. "These are for tomorrow's ceremony," she explained. "Princess Cerelia chooses only those who show true humility." She smiled. "You may assist." Jaden held a gown of deep blue silk. He smoothed every fold and hung it just so. As he worked, he thought of the old tutor and the envoy who vanished. But he also felt pride. He had earned a place in Cerelia's world. At last, he carried the finished gown into the princess's chamber. She stood by the window, looking out at the stars. Jaden offered the silk. Cerelia took it, her fingers brushing his. "Thank you, Jaden," she said softly. "You see me clearly. Few dare to look." Jaden watched her drape the gown over her arm. He saw her vulnerability, her fear of betrayal, and he understood that his kindness had begun to break through her cold walls. As he left the room, Jaden felt a cautious hope. He knew the tests would continue, but he also knew he had won a small trust, and that trust might guide him safely through whatever came next. 2 seconds, Jaden carried a small lantern down the curved marble stairs at dusk. He held it carefully so the flame would not flicker out. Tonight, Princess Cerelia had asked him to join her in the secret garden. He felt both honored and nervous as he followed the soft glow of lantern light. When he reached the garden, he saw tall silver trees and pale blue flowers that gave off a gentle scent. A narrow path wound around a clear pool. Cerelia stood at the water's edge, her crimson robe trailing behind her. She held a faded book of human poems in her hands. "Thank you for coming," she said without turning. Her voice was soft. Jaden bowed and set the lantern on a stone bench. The light lit up her face. He saw quiet sadness in her green eyes. "I thought you might like company," Jaden said. He stepped closer, careful not to touch the still water. These flowers are beautiful. Cerelia closed the book and smiled faintly. They remind me of home, she said. She held out the book. Can you read this for me? My tutors did not know our language. Jaden took the book and opened it to a poem called Sunrise on Earth. He cleared his throat and read slowly. Golden light across the field, warm and bright, a promise sealed. He paused, then continued until he finished all 4 lines. Cerelia watched him closely. When he finished, she nodded and pressed her lips together to keep from smiling. Your voice is calm, she said. It makes the words feel gentle. She stepped forward and gently took the book back. I like the way humans see simple things. Jaden felt his chest swell. He had never thought his voice could comfort a princess. He replied, I am glad you enjoy it, Your Highness. They walked side by side along the path. The lantern light danced on the water. Jaden pointed to the reflection of stars in the pool. They look like diamonds, he said. Cerelia looked down. On my world, the stars are red. I have never seen blue light like this. She touched the water's surface. You bring light to dark places, Jaden. Jaden stopped and turned to her. I only follow your request, princess. He tried to bow, but she placed a hand on his arm. Call me Cerelia, she said softly. You deserve the respect of a name. Jaden's breath caught. He nodded, surprised and happy. They sat on a low bench by the trees. For a few quiet moments, they did not speak. Jaden watched fireflies drift among the flowers. Cerelia closed her eyes and leaned her head back. Jaden felt a gentle breeze tickle his cheek. He knew the night held secrets and fears for Cerelia, but he felt proud that she had shared this hidden place with him. When Cerelia finally spoke, her voice was steady. Thank you, Jaden. Tonight, you have shown me kindness beyond duty. She opened her eyes and met his gaze. Jaden bowed his head. It is my honor, Cerelia. As they left the garden, Jaden carried the lantern again. He walked beside the princess, no longer just her caretaker, but her friend. The palace lay silent behind them, and the night sky stretched wide and full of hope. Jaden entered the small storage room before dawn. He carried a tray with warm tea and fresh fruit for the princess. As he set it down on a low bench, something caught his eye. On a shelf lay a leather-bound journal marked with Cerelia's crest. He knew it belonged to her old tutor. After placing the tray back in the hallway, Jaden slipped into the storage room again. He opened the journal carefully. The tutor wrote of Cerelia's childhood, how she played alone in moonlit gardens, dreaming of friends who never came. He spoke of her first human friend, who promised loyalty, but vanished one night. Page after page told of her heartbreak. Alien words flowed into human meaning. She felt abandoned, and she learned to trust no one. Jaden's heart ached as he read her pain. He closed the journal gently and carried it with him, wondering if he should share what he learned. At mid-morning, Cerelia practiced sword forms in the courtyard. Jaden approached, the journal hidden in his robe. He watched her move with fierce grace. Each strike was perfect, each step measured. She did not notice him at first. When she paused, he bowed. Princess, he said softly, I found this in your study. He offered the journal. Cerelia took it with surprise. My tutor's notes, she whispered. Why do you have it? Jaden knelt. I read some pages. I saw your pain and your fear of being left alone. His voice was gentle. I cannot erase your past, but I promise I will not leave you. Cerelia's green eyes softened. She studied Jaden's face. For a long moment, she said nothing. Then she spoke in a low tone. You are different, Jaden. You show care beyond duty. She closed the journal and tucked it under her arm. He felt hope. I wish you to trust me, he said. I will stand by you, no matter what. That afternoon, Cerelia surprised him. Come, she said. I will teach you some moves. She handed him a practice blade. Jaden's uniform felt heavy in his grip. He bowed and followed her to the training mat. She guided his stance. Jaden tried to mirror her posture. He stumbled at first, nearly dropping the blade. Cerelia smiled, a real smile that lit her eyes. She corrected his footwork with a gentle touch. His heart raced as her hand brushed his arm. They practiced together under the bright sky. Jaden learned each swing and block. He felt the wind of her movement and the strength in her body. Cerelia set a slow pace, letting him learn and grow. They traded laughter when Jaden overbalanced or swung too wide. When the sun dipped low, Cerelia sheathed her blade. She bowed to Jaden. "You learn quickly," she said, "more than any human before you." Jaden bowed in return. "I learn from the best, Princess." Cerelia nodded, then used his name. "Thank you, Jaden. Today you brought trust where there was fear." Jaden's chest warmed. He knew their bond had grown deeper. He carried her journal once more, this time not as a secret, but as proof that he was becoming someone she could rely on. Jaden woke to the sound of metal boots on marble. He opened his eyes and saw guards hurrying through the corridor. Today was important. Human diplomats had arrived to discuss a new trade treaty. Their leader, Ambassador Hayes, was here to speak with Princess Cerelia. Jaden dressed quickly and carried a tray of fresh fruit to Cerelia's chamber. He set it down quietly, bowing low. "Good morning, Princess," he said. "The diplomats await your counsel." Cerelia stood by the window, looking at the sunrise. She wore a robe of deep green that matched her eyes. "Thank you, Jaden," she said. "You may leave me now." Jaden bowed and stepped back. He watched her from the doorway as she lifted a golden mirror. She checked her hair and skin with calm precision. No fear showed on her face. Jaden felt proud but nervous for the diplomats. He followed Cerelia into the grand hall. The chamber was vast, with columns reaching high overhead. Flags of many worlds hung from the walls. At the far end, a long table stood ready. 2 seats held the human diplomats, Ambassador Hayes and his aide. As Cerelia entered, the room fell silent. She walked with measured steps and sat at the head of the table. Her advisors gathered behind her, their robes rustling like waves. Jaden stood at a side door, ready to serve. Ambassador Hayes bowed deeply. "Your Highness," he said in careful tones, "we come in friendship and hope for peace." He placed a crystal case on the table. Inside was a small token, a sphere of earth glass, glowing with a warm light. Cerelia studied the sphere without speaking. Her green eyes were calm and unreadable. Jaden's chest tightened. He knew the next moments would shape the future of both worlds. Finally, Cerelia spoke. "Your gift is noted," she said, "but trust must be earned." She paused, then added, "We require exclusive mining rights on your planet's moon." Her voice was steady, without warmth. Ambassador Hayes's face fell. He frowned and straightened his posture. "Your Highness, our moon is home to many colonies. Such a request could risk our people's safety." Cerelia leaned forward. "Then perhaps you will reconsider our terms." Her tone was polite but firm. She did not smile. Jaden stepped forward with water for the diplomats. He offered the glasses politely. Ambassador Hayes accepted one. His hand trembled slightly. Jaden bowed and retreated. The room grew tense. Cerelia presented data crystals that showed valuable minerals on the moon. The advisors whispered among themselves. Ambassador Hayes looked at the crystals, then back at Cerelia. I must confer with my government," he said. He rose and motioned to his aide. They left the hall together. Jaden watched them go, worry heavy in his chest. When the door closed, Cerelia turned to her advisors. "Prepare counteroffer," she said. "We will not lose this chance." Her voice held satisfaction. Jaden saw the flicker of triumph in her eyes. He left the hall and returned to the caretaker's quarters. He felt proud that he had served the princess with grace. Yet he thought of the diplomats' disappointed faces. He hoped that his gentle service would help build a bridge between their worlds, not a wall. As he washed the glasses in the quiet kitchen, Jaden resolved to do more. He would learn their culture and perhaps find a way to show Cyrilia the value of kindness and diplomacy. Part 7 of his journey had tested his loyalty, and it had only just begun. Jaden entered the quiet library before dawn. Shelves of data crystals and scrolls lined the walls. He carried a tray with Cyrilia's morning tea and a small dish of exotic pastries. As he set it on a reading table, he noticed a crystal map glowing softly in a corner. It showed the planets and moons of nearby star systems. He poured tea into a carved cup and carried it to Cyrilia's study alcove. She sat at her desk, reviewing reports from the diplomats. Her face was calm but tired. Jaden knelt and offered the tea. "Your morning tea, Cyrilia," he said quietly. She accepted without looking up. "Thank you," she replied. She lifted the cup and sipped, closing her eyes at the warmth. Jaden watched her for a moment, then noticed the crystal map behind her. "Where did you get this map?" he asked. Cyrilia set down the cup. "It was a gift from the human envoy," she said. "It shows your world's moon in detail." Her eyes flicked to the map. "I study it each night." Jaden looked closely. The moon glowed in blue-green light. Small markers showed mining sites. He felt a pang of worry for the colonists. "May I?" he asked, pointing to the map. Cyrilia nodded. Jaden knelt beside her and traced the moon's surface with his finger. "Here are the farms," he said, "and here the mining towns." He explained simple facts she might not know, like how long a day on the moon lasted and how cold the nights could be. Cyrilia listened. Her eyes softened. "I did not understand these details," she admitted. "I saw only resources." She studied his face. "Thank you for teaching me." Jaden bowed his head. "I want our worlds to thrive together." He pointed to the farms. "Those people feed many families. We must protect them." He spoke with gentle honesty. Cyrilia's green eyes met his. She rose and placed a hand on his shoulder. "You open my eyes to more than profit, Jaden." She paused. "I have a task for you." His heart sped up. "Anything, Princess." "I will adjust our treaty terms," she said, "but you must speak with the moon's governor. Learn what he needs to protect his people. Then bring me his words." Jaden bowed deeply. "I will not fail." He felt honored by her trust. Later that day, Jaden left the palace with a royal escort. He traveled in a sleek craftsman shuttle toward the moon's orbit. He thought of the governor and the colonists. He planned questions to ask about climate, food, and safety. When the shuttle landed, Jaden stepped onto the dusty surface. The air was thin but breathable. He saw domed farms and metal workshops. Workers moved about, carrying crates of ore and supplies. He found Governor Misa in a glass-walled office overlooking the settlement. She was a tall woman with kind eyes. Jaden bowed and introduced himself. "Governor Misa, I come on behalf of Princess Cyrilia. She wishes to know how to protect your people." Misa smiled. "Your princess shows wisdom beyond her years." She led him through the farms and workshops, pointing out cracked domes and worn machinery. "We need new shields for the domes and more water filters." Jaden listened and took notes on a data crystal. He thanked the governor and returned to the shuttle. As the moon's surface receded beneath him, Jaden felt hope. He carried Governor Misa's words like a gift to Cyrilia. When he returned to the palace, Jaden found Cyrilia waiting by the map. He knelt and offered the crystal with the notes. Her eyes shone. "You have served me well," she said softly. Jaden bowed. "Together, our worlds will be stronger." Cyrilia nodded, placing a hand on his. In that moment, he knew their bond would guide peace between humans and Varneks. Part 8 of his journey had built a bridge of trust and kindness. Jaden stood in the grand hall as dawn light filtered through stained windows. Today, Princess Cyrilia would present the revised treaty to her council and the human diplomats. He carried a data crystal with Governor Misa's notes close to his chest. His uniform was spotless, and his heart beat with quiet pride. Cyrilia entered the hall, wearing the deep blue silk gown Jaden had arranged. She looked every bit the ruler of the Varnic Empire. Her advisors fell silent as she approached the dais. The human diplomats, including Ambassador Hayes, waited at a long table on the opposite side. Jaden bowed and placed the data crystal on a low pedestal beside the princess. Cerelia nodded at him. He stepped back, hands at his sides, and watched as she lifted the crystal and spoke. "Esteemed council and diplomats," Cerelia began. Her voice was clear. "I have heard the needs of your moon's people." She tapped the crystal, and a hologram displayed new dome shields and water filters. "We will provide technology and resources to protect your farms and workshops." A murmur ran through the hall. The advisors whispered among themselves. Jaden saw some exchange surprised glances. Ambassador Hayes leaned forward. "Your Highness, this is unexpected and generous." He paused, then added, "We accept these terms." Cerelia inclined her head. "Then let our alliance begin in trust and respect." She smiled gently at Jaden. He had never felt prouder. But the moment was not yet complete. One advisor, a tall figure in silver robes, rose with a frown. "Princess," he said sharply, "you have compromised our profits. The moon's resources belong to the Empire." Cerelia turned to him, calm but firm. "Profit without peace is hollow," she replied. "Our strength lies in unity." She gestured to Jaden. "This human taught me the value of compassion. I stand by this treaty." The advisor's eyes flashed, but he fell silent. Another advisor bowed, and the others followed. The room relaxed. Ambassador Hayes approached the dais and extended his hand to Cerelia. She took it without hesitation. Then he looked at Jaden. "Caretaker Jaden," he said, voice warm, "your insight has changed our future." Jaden bowed deeply. "I only served what was right," he replied. After the hall emptied, Cerelia and Jaden walked through the palace gardens. The air was warm and the flowers glowed in twilight. Cerelia stopped and turned to him. "I trusted you when others would not," she said softly. "You have become more than a caretaker." Jaden felt his chest tighten. "You have become a friend, princess." He paused, then smiled. "May I call you Cerelia?" She returned his smile. "Yes, Jaden, you may." They walked on, side by side, under arching trees. Jaden knew their journey was not over. Challenges would come. But today they had built something lasting. Trust between two worlds and between two hearts. Part 9 closed on a promise of friendship and hope, setting the stage for the final chapter of their story. The morning sun shone through the palace windows as Jaden entered Cerelia's chamber with a final tray of tea. Today marked 1 year since he first arrived as her caretaker. The room was bright and warm. Cerelia stood by the window, dressed in a white robe trimmed with silver. She turned and smiled when she saw him. "Good morning, Jaden," she said softly. "Good morning, Cerelia," he replied, bowing. He offered the tray. On it lay 2 cups of jasmine tea and a small plate of honey cakes, his favorite treats. Cerelia's eyes lit up when she saw the cakes. "Thank you," she said, taking a cup. Jaden settled on a cushion across from her. They sat in comfortable silence for a moment, sipping tea and listening to birds singing outside. Finally, Cerelia spoke. "It has been a year," she said. "Do you remember that first day?" Jaden nodded, smiling at the memory. "I was scared and eager to please. Your tests were hard, but they taught me much." Cerelia's green eyes softened. "I tested you to see if a human man could be trusted. You proved me wrong in the best way." She paused, then added, "You taught me to trust again." Jaden's chest warmed at her words. "And you taught me courage," he said. "You showed me how kindness and strength can stand together." Cerelia stood and held out her hand. Jaden rose and took it. She guided him toward a large balcony that overlooked the palace gardens. Below, flowers bloomed in bright colors, and shimmering fountains danced in the sunlight. "I have something for you," Cerelia said, turning to him. She reached into a pouch at her waist and pulled out a small crystal pendant. It glowed with soft green light that matched her eyes. "This is a Varnak trust crystal. It bonds with the one you trust most. I wish you to have it." Jaden took the pendant with care. He felt its gentle warmth against his palm. "I am honored," he said quietly. Cerelia fastened the crystal to a simple chain around his neck. "The bond means you are part of my world," she explained, "and I am part of yours." Jaden touched the pendant and looked at Cerelia. "I will protect that bond always." They stood side by side, watching the gardens below. A gentle breeze carried the scent of flowers and promise. Jaden knew their story had come full circle, from cautious beginnings to a friendship strong enough to unite two worlds. As the sun climbed higher, Cerelia leaned her head on Jaden's shoulder. "Thank you for everything," she whispered. Jaden wrapped an arm around her. "Thank you, Cerelia, for giving me a chance." Together, they stood on the balcony, two figures from different worlds joined by trust, respect, and hope. Their journey had tested them, but it had also shown them the power of kindness. And as they looked toward the bright sky, both knew that the future would bring new challenges, and they would face them together.